as I speak with you, is in front of the president.
The conference frowned at some professional bodies acting as interlopers in the pharmacy space and noted harassment of some colleagues in the hands of personnel who have no jurisdiction to regulate pharmacy practice. The participants agreed that traditional medicine must be leveraged upon to facilitate medical security, supply chain production, and increase revenue generation through research aimed at product development.
Better legislation, give us better tools of regulation. There's a policy called National Drug Distribution Guidelines, which government itself has issued, but it doesn't want to implement it. So also with the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria. There's a law we've been begging and singing and crying and weeping for this law to be approved that will help and strengthen the Pharmacists Council's ability to regulate the environment. That law, as I speak with you, is in front of the president.
And to other parts of the continent now. As Eastern country, now video footage from AP following local troops in command of Jilin have issued red alerts for snowstorms, the most severe and a 4-tier color-coded weather warning system. The region has also stepped up efforts to keep homes warm, with authorities working to increase energy production capacities and increase coal imports. Now, former French President François Hollande was due to testify in court on Wednesday in the trial of the attacks in and around Paris, which killed 130 people in November in 2015. On the very night of the attacks, and as they were still happening, then President Hollande declared a state of emergency across France that lasted 2 years. Victims' families and survivors of the attacks on the Bataclan Concert Hall in Paris, Café Terraces, and the Stade de France were heard by the special court set up in central Paris over the past weeks. The historic trial for the Paris attacks that injured more than 1,000 others on November 13, 2015 started on September the 8th. Groups of gunmen and suicide bombers attacked the perimeter of the Stade de France Sports Stadium, the Bataclan Music Hall, and a string of 6 bars and cafes: La Belle, Le Quip, Le Petit Cambourge, Le Carillon, à la Bombière, Casa Nostra, Le Comte Volantre. In business news now, the Center for Human Rights and Civic Education has concluded plans for the receipt of a grant expected to promote the rights of original inhabitants of the Federal Capital Territory. Speaking during the signing ceremony, Executive Director of the group, Ibrahim Zikrullah, stated that the 800 million naira grant provided by the MacArthur Foundation will be availed to 9 organizations who have been vetted and cleared for the project. He, however, added that his organization will keep close watch to monitor the progress of the project.
A total of 9 original habitat organizations will be signing grants to implement various projects targeted at addressing the entrenched political, economic, and cultural marginalization of the original inhabitants of the FCT. I'm therefore pleased to inform that a total sum of 800 million naira has been granted to the 9 organizations and their technical partners, which have been assessed and approved for this project following a scoping study of organizations led by FCT original inhabitants and those working directly on their respective issues.
We have found out that a lot of Nigerians who live here or who have lived here for many, many years simply do not seem to understand the plight of the original inhabitants of the FCT. And this is because there has not been sufficient advocacy as to the problems that we face as indigenous of the FCT. Indeed, in some cases, there is this impression that there are no indigenes in the FCT, or that if there are indigenes, we don't have any rights that is superior or supersedes the other rights of other Nigerians who live here.
And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching. We urge you to join us again at 9:30 for a flagship bulletin. Good evening.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostel at this time.
And Safety Agency, statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Urinary tract infection is simply infection of the urinary tract. So the body is divided into systems. And of course, you have, just like you have the digestive system, neurologic system, suppressants, immunosuppressants, or high levels of chemotherapies, or patients who have come down with retroviral infections. Then, in very common cases, are bacterial infections that cause urinary tract infection, which are the common ones that we see. So you have things like streptococcus, you have things like H. influenza, you have things like E. coli. In worst cases, you have Klebsiella, and of course, all of these bacteria can actually cause urinary tract infection. When they affect the different levels of the body, they have their different symptoms. So some of them get as far as the kidneys, cause things like pyelonephritis, and it further goes down to damaging symptoms. Okay, so it can be caused by bacteria, fungi, viruses are the commonest one. Protozoas can also cause it, and sometimes worms infections. 5 major steps actually preventing urinary tract infections. Number 1 is maintaining a good hygiene. Hygiene has been seen to be implicated in urinary tract infection. Basically, hygiene. Oftentimes you see ladies not properly, use their underwears, or sometimes they don't even use it or properly wash. So it's usually recommended that they wash recurrently with maybe a hypo, a sanitizer, as it were, or a jig, a detergent, and sometimes even iron. Okay, the reason for iron is to give the heat if you don't want to discard completely. All right. Other prevention mechanisms includes proper dieting. Okay. When we eat right, we prevent a lot of things. Sometimes when we do a lot of sugar, you provide a habitable environment for these microbes to grow. All right. A lot of sugar. Yeah. Sometimes we even think that high protein diets are very effective, but no, you further even provide, because you see, in improper dieting, you alter the pH of the body. This pH of the body is what is responsible for the maintaining a proper environment that organisms does not grow. When you distort it, certain organisms now begin to thrive in places where they're not supposed to thrive. The third thing is water, hydration, good level of hydration, okay, keeps us consistently cleansed out. The fourth one is, it's been said that especially in women, they ought to clean from front to back. Rather, yes, from front to back, not from back to front. Okay, that's the proper way of cleaning. And then there's been some drinks that have been used in, especially berry drinks, cranberry drinks, have been very effective in the GI. So if you have drinks that have the cranberry or berry nectar, you have a good chance of preventing it. Some other ways of preventing: regular testing, you can prevent your urinary, usually not so much. And then they could also have discharge, but that happens more with sexually transmitted infections. Now, the point about improper treatment, especially in females, is that it's responsible for high levels of infertility when it's not properly treated. The bad part of urinary tract infection is that it takes a quiet stage and right there in the body, and many people walk away, especially guys, especially men. They feel that they're good. And so in 2 weeks, it's important that you do not prescribe or you do not recommend yourself many of these roadside drugs that people do, especially when you hear things like staph aureus and stuff. No, none of that is just very unacceptable. In the treatment of urinary tract infections, you get tested first, and you get drugs that are sensitive to these infections. Now, for some reasons, when adequate doses of these drugs are not taken, especially to completion, like I said to you, many times the treatment could last for as much as 2 weeks because of the level for where they are. The urinary tract infection is one of the lowest parts of the body. All right. So you have to do that long. If you don't do that, you begin to grow resistant strains of these microbes, and then you have to do it again and again. But the next time you're coming back to hit it, you don't get the same response like you got the first time. So it's important that whenever you're going to get treated, you treat for a very long time, and as much as 2 weeks, sometimes injections first, and then you complete the dosage with a couple of tablets that are sensitive to the organism.